Tell you what, it's a bitch to get old, you know? That gum, hard to move. Okay, Veterans Day, Sunday, and of course the parade will be at the War Veterans Home on Monday next. And as is usually the case, I will give the rest of the day off for all of the employees who elect to attend the ceremony out at the War Veterans Home. And I hope that each of you can accommodate that. It's important to recognize those people who are out there. They've served their country for a long time. Many of them are infirm, and they certainly appreciate your presence. And I hope that you can find it in your heart to do that. Brent Gable. Brent, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to talk about United Way?
Here's today's email. Thank you very much. We had 2 weeks. Next Friday is the last day for the United Way campaign. If you would like to contribute and have not gotten a form, please email me. If not, please keep sending the ponies to me because I like them in my mailbox every day. Thank you very much for your support and your continued support. Thank you.
Cool.
Glad to see you, John.
Okay, Fred's going to talk about Title IX. There's some changes in the law, and I received this letter from the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. It started off, "Dear colleague, I can assure you that I am not a colleague of the Department of Education, nor is any other college president, but they have changed the way that Title IX is being interpreted, and it opens up many, many doors, and it's important that all of you listen very carefully to what Fred is going to brief on because it can affect this institution profoundly."
Title IX, and it has a counterpart. Title IX itself is directed toward students. Title VII is directed toward employees. As the law develops, both Title VII and Title IX will eventually come together, and it will come together under either one or the other, and it will address sexual misconduct, harassment, sexual violence for both employees and students. But for now, we're concerned about new guidance that has come out relative to Title IX, which focuses, as it says here, on protecting students from sexual harassment and sexual violence. Title IX says that discrimination will not be tolerated under any education program or activity receiving financial aid. How many of you think Georgia Military College falls under this definition as receiving financial aid? Raise your hand if you see that. If you haven't got your hand up, you're wrong. We do fall under this definition. Title IX expectations of us are that you and I do everything we can to prevent harassment, violence, sexual misconduct against students, that we stand between our students and this kind of conduct to prevent it. Title IX has some very structured expectations that all incidents of sexual misconduct be investigated. Now that isn't just investigating by going out and answering a few questions. Title IX and the guidance that has been given to us to help us implement Title IX is very structured in the way it says investigations should be conducted and who should conduct those investigations. The guidance we have for implementing Title IX says that we must designate a Title IX coordinator, and more about that on the next slide. It says we must give notice to the students that we will not allow discrimination to occur in our college with respect to sexual misconduct. It says that we must establish grievance procedures specific to these violations and tell students and employees what those grievance procedures are. And it says as well that we must implement student and employee training and education programs, and you'll see more of that in the near term. On the previous slide, it said we must designate a Title IX coordinator, somebody who looks after compliance with Title IX for the entire institution. The president is responsible for that, but in this particular case, our Title IX coordinator, working for the president to make sure we know what changes to Title IX occur, what training is being conducted, what violations have occurred, and what we are doing or have done about those violations across the entire institution. Our Title IX coordinator is Colonel Pat Beard. Pat is here today. He is the institution's Title IX coordinator. Mark Strom is a deputy Title IX coordinator. And so we began to link together complaints that apply to employees and complaints that apply to, that are applicable to students. And down at the distant learning centers, the assistant directors have been designated as deputy Title IX coordinators at the distant learning center level. Now we have sent people to for Title IX investigator training from every DLC, and we have 3 people on this campus who are certified Title IX investigators. And those people at the DLCs and at this campus, if a Title IX investigatory panel is required, will be brought together to sit on the panel as trained investigators, trained people under the Title IX definitions to handle Title IX hearings and investigations. Every employee is expected to have some training in what Title IX is, what it means, and what our responsibilities are. Very soon, through your supervisors, you will be receiving that. It will be an online training tool that you will be given access to, and all of us will be expected to complete it. A digital record that we have completed it will be on file, and if the Office of Civil Rights were to come down, we would be able to show investigators from the Office of Civil Rights that the employee and faculty training, staff and faculty training had been completed. So that will be for employees, and we also must train those people, as I've mentioned, who are going to do the investigations, sit on hearing boards, and make the decisions about Title IX outcomes. Responsible employee is one of the terms used in the Title IX legislation and in the guidance. And case law, although responsible employees you might assume are supervisory employees, case law more and more says that if a student comes up to an employee of the college, then that student, in effect, is talking to what Title IX defines as a responsible employee. So no matter who the student comes up to, it could be anybody in this room, you become the responsible employee, and you have certain obligations as a responsible employee representing this college. These are the things that describe in broad brush what those responsibilities are. These are the things, as the slide says, to get right. You must, that's a pretty big word, report incidents and rumors of incidents. You must report those incidents within 24 hours. And you cannot, in taking these incidents on board, if a student comes to any of you and wants to report or wants to talk to you about it, you have a responsibility as an employee of this college to report it. How many of you know who your boss is? Raise your hand. That's who you report it to. And if your boss is sick, not available, can't be reached, then the Title IX coordinator, Colonel Pat Beard, is where you go to report it. And if you can't find Pat Beard, you go to Mark Strom and you report it. And if you can't find your supervisor, Pat Beard, Mark Strom, you come to me and report it. And I guess we could carry this on out ad infinitum, but I hope you get the point. If you've got a boss, you have some place to report these things. And the law is fairly specific. It says that this college can be held responsible for not acting promptly. And the guidance if not the law, the guidance says we regard prompt action as something that happens within 24 hours. And so that's why this number is up there. So you can't sit on it. And you can't, when the student comes and says, hey, look, I don't want anybody to know about this, what you've got to do is to tell that student, look, I have a responsibility to this institution. This institution could be taken to court or at least investigated by the Office of Civil Rights. And we will treat your complaint, we will treat this problem that you're passing on to me as confidentially as we can. But as an employee of this college, I have a responsibility to carry this thing forward to the proper authority. And that applies to every single one of us as employees. Okay, those are the things that you've got to get right. Now, this is so important, I wanted to make a special point of it. Okay, the blue ball means I get to ask you a question. The yellow ball means you get to ask me a question. We have a hard time getting people to ask questions around here, so that's one way we're going to do it. Okay, what is your question?
So this is cross-campus, sir, even for the prep school, from the 6th grade to the 12th grade?
That's right. We will see that 2 investigators are trained in the prep school. Right now, if you have a complaint, you know who it would go to in the prep school. It would go to the principal or to Pam Grant. I mean, you know who to go to in those places like that. But we will very shortly have 2 investigators trained for the prep school. And in the meantime, we have 3 others already trained on this campus if there is something that needs to be investigated or found. That's a good question. Thank you. Can I have my yellow ball back? Blue ball. I get to ask you a question. Who is the Georgia Military College Title IX coordinator? Oh, that's good. All right. Thank you very much.
This is a far different criterion for investigation or assigning guilt. That's number one. So if you even suspect that there is an issue regarding sexual harassment, it's very important, it's critical that that be reported. Flagler College, I got a call from Bill Proctor, who's the chancellor at Flagler. They're getting sued for $1 million under this new rubric. They've done everything, Bill was confident that they've done everything that they should do, but still in all, it's a court case, and it's, he was, he was concerned that this college was up to speed in this particular issue, which I believe that we are. As I understand it, Fred, the software that we're purchasing that provides the training allows us to capture the names of each individual who goes on the internet and receives that training. Now, the reason I bring that up is because it's important that 100% of our employees are trained in this training. And you need to know that we're going to check. It is that important. We will get you the identification of the internet website on which the training occurs. It's not going to take up a heck of a lot of time, but it's important that you go through that. And the computer will pick up your name, log you in, and we will check, because we have to ensure that every employee, including every employee at all of our campuses, undergoes this training. Pain in the butt? Boy, you bet. Huge pain in the butt. But I'm not going to subject this school to being vulnerable to some sort of lawsuit. So we have to make sure that what we do is up to speed, and we will do that. Okay. Having said that, you know that we just broke ground on the new Health and Wellness Center. I set the price at $17 million. Originally, it was somewhat higher than that, and quite frankly, I thought we were getting screwed. So I said 17 million is my top dollar, not 1 cent more. And so they've been working back and forth with particularly the heating and air conditioning folks to get the price at 17 million. I'm told that we're about there right now. So I'd like Jeff to bring you up to speed on exactly where we are and when we're going to start and when we'll get this project completed.
I think it's turned off. Now it's turned on.
Oh, okay. Are you all able to hear me without this thing? If that's the case, well, let's just leave it off.
As General Boylan said, the budget is driving this project. We're trying to get everything we can get for 17 million, but our team clearly understood not 1 penny more than 17 million. So we're shooting for 16,999 and some change. There were a number of things that had to happen on the site before Skanska could come and start digging. Skanska's going to be about a month late. I expect them around December 3rd to be on site. They expect to get a notice to proceed from GSFIC and GMC telling them to start. In the meantime, we've removed the light pole, we've taken the fence down. All of the communications for everybody on the other side of Elbert Street and all the sewage for Miller Hall and NAB2 run right through the construction site. So we're in the process of relocating all of that. They're coming across the soccer field now. They'll be digging across it for probably the next 2 weeks or so and up along Elbert Street so we can relocate all of that. And we will coordinate a tie-in on both of those so that it doesn't inconvenience the whole world. But we are on track. Our team the floor plans are pretty well set. If you have not seen the floor plans or have any questions, I'll be glad to show you in any detail. I have about 500 pages of drawings, so you can look at everything from light switches on up and down. But the floor plans are pretty well set. We've got everything in the building we wanted to get into this phase. It's going to be 57,000 square feet with 2 nice decks overlooking the soccer field and the tennis court area. And we expect to move in probably early December of 2013. Any questions? Or thank you, sir.
We have a choral concert when? Tomorrow night? Is it tomorrow night, Muna? 7 o'clock, I believe, in the Goldstein Center. I'm always astonished. Some years ago, Muna was an adjunct professor, and I really liked what she was trying to do, so I said, I'll give you 5 years to create a music program. And if after 5 years you create a music program, you're a full-time professor. She was able to do that, and has grown the chorus to, I don't know, about 20, 30 folks right now, and the last concert I thought was excellent. So you've done a magnificent job. Okay, about ready to start the budget process for next year. No surprises there. School, we had a terrible summer and fall one, but the fall term enrollments are up, and I think right now we're about $250,000 over budget in terms of revenue production, and I expect that to continue for the rest of the fiscal year, which is good because I've got to dig out a number of millions of dollars to supplement the monies required for the Health and Wellness Center, and it really would have made a sort of dent if we weren't doing well in enrollment. So I thank all of you for your work in customer service. The students, if the students don't come here, you don't have a job. I don't have a job, really. Students are our bread and butter. This is a business, and our business, our product is education, and we do a great job of providing education. And the reason that we're able to do that is because of the customer service that we show the students. Students love us because they get help. They can come here and everybody's going to help them. Carol Everett back there in the business office, make sure that they're taken care of. Same thing in financial aid. And you do a great job, and thank you for that.